How amazing is Dr. CJ Mertz? Man, we are so blessed to have him. You have no idea. He is like the calm sage of, we're going to do this. 2,000 clinics, no problem. He's got the system, the processes. It's just going to be, I'm so excited. I get goosebumps every time we talk about it. We're like little kids talking about what's possible because we get to see it in our life every day. So, okay, we're going to change the vibe just a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. I want to give a little conversation about really something that we need to make sure that we're championing. And what we're championing is this right here, is that self-care is the real healthcare. How many of you would agree this is probably one of the most commonsensical conversations you could ever have? If you don't know how to take care of yourself, how could you possibly be healthy? How many of you would agree that we cannot rely on other people to tell us how we should eat, how we should sleep, what drugs we should take, how we should be healthy? We don't, it needs to be on us. Like I have a financial planner, I have a health coach, I have all these people I work with. Why? Because I need someone to help me learn more about me. But I like to study and learn about myself as well. So what I need you to understand is that the absolute best practices that we're going to be implementing is all about understanding what self-care is. I'm going to teach you more about yourself over this process. We're going to have webinars, we're going to have conversations, we're going to have all kinds of opportunities for education, not just hearing from me, but from other health and wellness experts that are going to help you uncover what self-care really is. And I'll tell you, you'll be able to take your life back if you'll understand some of the technologies that we're bringing to the table. Many of you have heard me talk about one of the differentiators that we have is how we talk and understand what health really is. Dr. CJ talked a little bit about health problems come from negative thoughts, toxins, traumas, things of that nature, right? Well, there's something that every doctor has learned about called the Triad of Health. If you take this triangle here, you divide that triangle, it's 100% all the way made up. And if you divide it into 33.3% into chemical well-being, physical well-being, and neuro-emotional well-being, that makes up your health. How many of you have ever experienced a time when you were stressed out emotionally about something and you got sick from it? Or how many of you ever have been emotionally stressed out about something and it caused pain in your body somewhere? You know, I will tell you that there's a condition called emotional back syndrome, which is when people are emotionally stressed out, they get back pain from it. Then they get misdiagnosed by their medical doctor or their chiropractor. Nobody gives them the help they need. Then the next thing you know, they start doing pain pills and pain shots. And I don't know if you know this, but the third leading cause of death in the United States of America is what's called iatrogenic death, which is death from overprescription and misdiagnosis and etc. So what if there was a way that individual could find out from the root that their problem was emotional at the base of it? I mean, if you have a physical problem, look, we talk about health as physical. You have a physical body. You know, I don't know if you know this, but it's been said now that sitting is the new smoking. Have you heard of this before? Sitting is the new smoking. We live in a massive sedentary lifestyle. And again, I'm going to tell you, I don't care how many peptides, how many hormones, how many microbiome, I'm going to give you the best products out there on the market. But if you still don't get your physical, chemical, and emotional body proper, you're not going to get the results that you need. And so we're going to be able to take you down a process through the self-care diagnosis system through the Triad of Health. How many of you know that if you have physical problems, it can manifest as other issues in the body? Did you know, for example, I remember this was, I think 2015, 2016, it was actually all over mainstream news in America. They were talking about the neck, the curvature in the neck being related to high blood pressure. Think about this. How many of you in this room know people that have blood pressure problems, right? Well, you know, nobody's ever died of high blood pressure. They die from the cause of the high blood pressure. I want to make sure that everybody understands that. But what they uncovered in this study was if you have a physical problem, if your body doesn't have the right banana-shaped curve in your neck, you can't get blood supply and oxygen in your brain. It causes an increase in pressure in your carotid arteries, and that's problematic. So physical problems can cause emotional and chemical issues. You know, your doctors aren't assessing you with those things. I'm going to demonstrate a little bit later today some technology through our app that you're going to have. And what if there was a way that you could literally take a picture with technology that's already approved by the Taiwan FDA authorities, where you can literally take a picture of your face, and through that picture you can measure your biological and chronological age. What if I could show you some technology that we could take a picture of your body, and through looking at this app, we can tell where your alignment's off and what muscles are problematic and what risk of injuries you have. That technology exists to this day. The problem is that when most people go to their physicians, you have to understand that most of us are trained on technologies from 5, 10, or 15 years ago. I had a conversation when we were in Dallas a few weeks ago with a physician who worked with the Department of Defense for over 20 years. And he said, look, I've been in practice now for 40 plus years. I'm still running the exact same blood test that I ran when I was an intern 45 years ago that we're running today. You're telling me technology hasn't improved? It has. But the problem is the system suppresses that technology. What if there was a way that you could have access, you as an end game consumer could have access to all the things to measure your physical, chemical, and neuro-emotional well-being? From a chemical standpoint, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the testing that we're going to be releasing globally. I'm going to tell you about one today that is absolutely going to go viral. It's going to be a complete game changer. It'll totally change your life, and it'll be one of the most powerful tools that you'll see, and we'll talk about that later. It's our DNA discovery kit that we have, which is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I'm such a nerd, I know, but the more I see this and the more technology we have around it, just the more it's a game changer. But what if there were simple tests that you could do at home, that with precision testing, you could have precision therapeutics of what to eat, how to sleep, how to exercise? Man, I show this to athletes all the time and they're blown away. I show this to quote unquote celebrities and high net worth individuals who supposedly have access to the best doctors on the planet. And they're saying, you're telling me through this simple test, through this simple process, I can learn all these things? Yes. Because what's so disruptive about what we are creating together is we're taking the old school tried and true things that we know that work, like the Triad of Health, and we're putting new technologies like blockchain, smart contracts, and AI machine learning technology involved into our apps and all of our protocols. It really, truly is changing the way that doctors are even prescribing healthcare. Our app that we use, the technology that's in there, I think many of you have heard me say this before, we use some of the same technology in the Department of Defense when it comes to learning and reading your testing for AI. I don't know if you know this, but now in VA hospitals, certain VA hospitals across the globe, they're now using AI diagnostic software. And just say this, you guys remember, it's pretty wild whenever I told you about, the battle that I went through. Went through this long, exhaustive lawsuit with the federal government. And once we showed them all of our technologies, now they partnered with 2 of our projects with us. Because once they see how good this is, it's absolutely amazing what's happened. And that AI technology is one of those deals. So we're going to talk about through genetic profiling, through at-home blood testing. I mean, how many of you in here are taking vitamins, minerals, nutrients, all those things? It's really important to take that. But how do you know exactly what you need? And the reality of it is if you don't have the precision testing, you don't know. And you could be an educated guesser, like most people are, get you in the ballpark, but really to know is the key. We're going to talk about the telomere testing that we offer as well. You guys familiar with telomeres? In longevity medicine, I don't know if you know this, but now the conversations we're having to this day right now, we're saying that people are going to be living to 140, 150, some are even saying up to 200 years of life. So if your body's physically, some of you are going, there ain't no way, right? Trust me, to get to where you want to be, you have to first know where you're at. Would you agree with that? If I'm in Las Vegas and I need to get back home to St. Louis, I need to know where I'm at and where I'm going. That's how the map takes me there. But if you don't understand where yourself is at, how can you possibly know where to start to get to where you want to be? And that's what this process is going to help allow you to do. And so when we talk about telomeres are the ends of your chromosomes. And we'll talk about chromosomes in just a moment. But chromosomes are made up of DNA. And your DNA, the end of the chromosome, is this thing called a telomere. It's like the little plastic thing on your shoelace. Well, if that little plastic thing on your shoelace shortens or falls apart, what happens to the actual threading of the shoelace? It starts to fray, right? Well, as we get older, those telomeres start to shrink. If those telomeres shrink, then our genetic code starts to unwind and the process of cellular degeneration and cellular death starts. That's the aging process. So common sense tells us, and we know this scientifically, if we can measure the telomere, if we can do X, Y, and Z, which is understanding how to live your lifestyle for your genetics, take the right supplementations that you need, do the right X, Y, and Z with life, sleep, breathing, etc., we can lengthen those telomeres. And that is going to be one of the most paramount things when it comes to health and wellness in the future is how are the health of your telomeres? That really truly is what Ponce de Leon was looking for with the fountain of youth. So we have the genetic profiling, we have blood testing, we have telomere testing, we have fecal samples. It's always fun to talk about, number twos in front of hundreds of thousands of people publicly, right? But we can tell a lot about your crap, okay? Many of you have heard me talk about a dear friend of mine who is a very famous gastroenterologist. She had it was the paper of the year, the American Medical Association paper of the year. I think it was 2022 or 2021. Her name is Dr. Sabine Hassan. And Dr. Sabine wrote a paper called The Missing Microbe. And what she found is after looking at over 600,000 fecal samples of people who got not just sick, but really, really sick with COVID, and ultimately some people that succumbed to it, they found that there was a missing microbiotic, a type of a bifidobacterium that's supposed to be in the gut that was missing in those folks that was the key to the immune system. I mean, and now we're to a point where we know if you have this microbe, you reduce the risk of infection by like 60 to 70% of all cause infections. And you have all these folks that are trying to figure out what should I take to boost my immune system. How many of you knew that your immune system has a lot to do with your fecal matter? Not a lot of people know that. Sabine, by the way, really excited. She's going to be doing a lot of work with us, and she's going to be on our podcast, Pep Talk, pretty soon. She has a really great podcast called Let's Talk Shit. It's really cool. She's a lot cooler than I am. She's a feisty Lebanese lady. And then the neuro-emotional component. What if there was a way that we could cognitively measure your cognitive brain function? I'm going to show you today. We actually have clinically diagnostic tools where we can actually go through, you can run some tests, and we can measure your brain function. Look, I don't know if you know this, but it's not a matter of if, but when most people are going to develop neurological decline. You understand that, right? And if we're physically living longer lives and now we're being promised 140, 150, 200 years of life, we better make sure that we've got everything working in between. Would you agree with that? Like, I don't just want to look good and be sitting in a chair in a diaper drooling all over the place. I want to be able to do the things I want, when I want, with who I want, for as long as I'm on this planet. Amen? Right? We also measure something called heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is the keystone, the gold standard of measuring brain activity. In your brain, there's two components. You have a gas pedal and you have a brake pedal. And there's a nerve called the vagus nerve that connects the stomach to the brain. And that nerve is the superhighway nerve. It's the nerve that's responsible for your body's ability to rest, relax, grow, develop, digest, and heal. Those are kind of important things, right? Well, most people don't have a problem with their pain. They have a problem with their brain. Most people don't have a problem with their GI tract as much as they have a problem with their brain working like it's supposed to. And if you've not had your brain assessed, it's an absolute, no pun intended, mind-blowing experience when you see this. I had a group, how many of you in this room were at my office in St. Louis a couple weeks ago that had you guys had your brains tested. And I got to tell you, it was a fun, exciting conversation, but I had to talk a couple of you off the ledge for a little bit. Because when you now come to look at your body of going, okay, I'm in my 40s, but my brain says I'm in my 60s, you have decisions to make, don't you? And the decision is, do I continue to do what I've always done and expect a different result, which is what? The definition of insanity. Or do I say, okay, I'm not all right with this. I want to live a happy, healthy, productive, and wealthy life. I need to do X, Y, and Z to change that. How many would agree that the second component is probably what the vast majority of people would want to do? But you know why they don't? Because they don't have the opportunity to do that. They don't have the technology. They don't have the exposure. They don't have the treatments and things that we do. We're bringing that to the world. In fact, let me show you this. And I know in a moment I'm going to have Dr. Porter come up, and he's going to talk a little deeper about the brain component for your DNA and your health. But this is an example of a heart rate variability brain scan. And this one's pretty simple to understand and read, but if you look at the one on the far left from 3/21/2023, this is measuring brain activity. And if you look, we want to see greens and blues in that brain. I mean, I'll know reds and yellows and blacks. That's probably not what you want to see in your brain, okay? So when we look at that, we can tell that's an area where that young man actually had an injury to his head. And that area of the brain controls this whole part of his body. So when that brain's not functioning and firing, it's not getting blood supply and oxygen like it's supposed to. How many of y'all know if I had a garden hose and I'm trying to water my garden, I kink it and I can't get the water to it, that's not going to grow good vegetables. Would you agree with that? If your brain doesn't have the blood supply to it, that's very problematic. How many of you in this room have ever heard of something called diabetes before? Well, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune issue when the pancreas isn't working like it's supposed to. Type 2 diabetes is a blood sugar issue, which is typically, by the way, you're going to find out from a genetic standpoint, your body has an MTHFR gene. It can't methylate. It can't handle certain carbohydrates. You consume too many of those carbohydrates, which are poison for you, and you don't handle fats like you're supposed to. So you develop cravings for sugars and sweets, which is easy to overcome. And type 2 diabetes is absolutely easy to reverse. If you guys, later today, I'm going to talk to you about something, a very strong challenge that we're going to give you all. And if you'll follow through with this challenge, what's going to happen next with BioLimitless is truly a limitless experience that you guys can't even imagine will happen. But if type 2 diabetes sits long enough in somebody's brain, it turns to type 3 diabetes, which is early onset Alzheimer's. So blood sugar leads to low oxygen blood supply to the brain. We can measure that with some of these technologies. And this is literally a before and after. So look, this guy put some things into play. His brain started improving. And then we found out, guess what else happened? He had another injury. And now his brain started messing up again. But even though his brain had some red in it on the third scan, the overall improvement of it went up. We can measure chronological versus biological age now. How many of you guys remember Dr. Oz? You guys know Dr. Oz? Do you remember his counterpart early on, Dr. Perricone? Dr. Perricone was one of the first anti-aging gurus that really publicly came out. And what did he talk about? He talked about your chronological versus your biological age. Your chronological age is how many times your body's run around the sun, how many years you've been on this planet. But your biological age is how your body's functioning. You could be in your 50s, but your body could be biologically functioning in its 20s and 30s, and that can be true. And by the way, those of you that have been told, well, I'm just old, my muscles are old, my bones are old, my organs are old. No, they're not. You get new bones, organs, muscles, and tissues every 12 to 18 months. The problem is your cells are not getting the signaling that they need like they used to when you were a kid. So if we could give you some advanced technology, which we have, that can wake up your cells, it'll take the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, put it to work, and it'll take your old feeling muscles, joints, and bones and help your body turn them into youthful vitality function again. That's where we're at with technology. We're there as a society, but most people don't know that that's possible. Well, we're getting ready to kick the tires off that. But how cool would it be if you had the ability to be able to do this kind of technology, not just in brick and mortar facilities, but what if there was an app on your phone you could do this through? And you could check your brain. You want to talk about things like ADD, ADHD, insomnia, anxiety, fatigue. It's all brain issues, digestive absorption issues, brain issues, so many cool things that we can learn from this tech. You're going to get way more knowledge about who you are and what your health is with this technology we're bringing to the community than you have, I promise, in probably the last 20 years combined with all the physicians you've been to. I'll be blown away if that's not the case with most of you. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about this. I want to spend a little bit of time on this because this is a major differentiator of who we are and what we're doing. And Jeremy said it, I want to make sure you understand what we're not. We're not here to diagnose and treat medical diseases. I'm not here to give you a bunch of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. I'm not here for you to take the latest, greatest Vita Vegemin, the new product that's out there, and in 6 months, nobody even cares about it. I'm not about that life at all. I'm about giving you technology, science, and a system that you can find out more about yourself than you've ever found out before. We'll give you the map, the keys, and the car on how to drive to where you want to be, and we're going to focus on cellular health and cellular restoration. Because that's what real true health is. And what I need you to understand is the movement is already happening with that. You're going to start hearing and seeing about cell signaling technology. You're going to start hearing more about secregogue chemicals. You're going to start, and we're going to hear about that in the news. You're going to go, well, that sounds too over my head. Well, nobody in this room knew what mRNA was 3 years ago. Now you're all experts in that, right? So that's going to happen with cell signaling. But what I need you to understand is this. So this infinity sign is really important for you to understand. I need you to understand and burn into your eyes that physiology doesn't lie. We test, we don't guess. I'm just going to warn you, when we get done today, all of you are going to want to talk to me and ask me about, can you help with blood condition? Every one of you is going to say that, I promise. My answer is, it's not about your condition. It's about your cellular health and expression of your cells' function. If we can find out where your cells are and get those cells functioning better, the healing happens on its own. You see, what happens is most of us, if you look at the top left part of this scan where it says organism, it says symptoms and disease. An organism is you. You're an organism. You're a human being. That when your body's out of balance, physically, chemically, or emotionally, you're now going to start getting symptoms. Those symptoms then lead into something called disease. So ease, E-A-S-E, means balance. Dis-ease is when you're out of balance, dis-ease. Disease is when your body's been that way for a long time. So you know how you reverse it? You go from disease to dis-ease back to ease. It's really pretty common sense if you understand how it works. But see, organisms are made up of organ systems. You're made up of your, digestive system, your reproductive system, your nervous system, your cardiovascular system, which we can measure all those now. We can measure those and tell you how they're functioning. What if I told you that there is technology out there, and we're going to be bringing that to you in later launches, but that can measure the frequencies of the organs in your body? And we know that organs are supposed to actually be at a certain frequency to be at optimal function. Just like people think they understand blood pressure should be 120/80. We know what the kidneys should be firing at, what the heart should be firing at. What if there was technology that we literally could measure that, and then there was technology to go, oh, that's not where it should be. Let's do something to turn that up. That's literally where we're moving to in the health and wellness space, and we're bringing that to the marketplace on a massive level. But your organism is made up of organ systems. Those organ systems are made up of organs. Those organs are made up of tissue. Tissues are told what to do by cells in your body. Cells are told what to do by chromosomes and telomeres. Your chromosomes and telomeres are made up of DNA and bacteria. Did you know that the quality of your health is in direct proportion to the quality of the health of the cells in your body? But it's also in direct proportion to the quality of the health of the bacteria in your body. You're going to learn later on today that you actually have more bugs and fungus and bacteria in and on your body than you have human cells and DNA in and on your body. And for those of you that are germaphobes, sorry, you can't wash that off. And you don't want to, because our health is predicated off of that. What if I told you that the vast majority of the disease and dis-ease processes, including chronic cellular inflammation, come from your gut being out of balance? We know that it does. Even Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said first fix the gut and everything falls into place. Why have we gone so far astray with that? When I was testifying in front of some powerful government agencies, I've sat in front of Congress now 3 times and subcommittees and et cetera, and been asked all kinds of fun, exciting questions. And I was asked a question about this thing called Operation Moonshot. Have you heard of this before? Operation Moonshot is the current administration's process on how do we get rid of and cure cancer. Well, I kind of chuckled and said, it just makes no sense what you're trying to do. And the question was why? Well, if our government right now allows over 1,000 chemicals into our food supply and water supply that we know that are carcinogens and hormone disruptors, how can we possibly prevent and treat these issues? And the answer is we can't. So that's why I'm telling you, you have to understand this. And so health on the left side, this is what medicine primarily focuses on, managing your diseases, okay? Treating your symptoms. I'm not interested in that, and you shouldn't be either. If someone says to you, I have diabetes, heart disease, cancer, stroke, whatever, your question should be, okay, I understand that you have that, which as a physician, my brain says, okay, you have problems in your system, but I know that it's on a cellular level. So if we're going to repair something, it has to be done on a cellular level. So if we can measure your DNA, and I'm going to show you later today how we can do that. We can measure your genetics. You can now live a genetic lifestyle. So you can have a blueprint for your genes. And we can measure your bacteria, tell you what to eat, what not to eat, how to change. And we've got some bacteria formulas that are literally, they are going to blow your mind because it's going to fix your gut. And your gut controls 90% of your brain, which is amazing. And then the telomeres and the cell work, we do that. But let me ask you this. How many of you have ever looked at cells under a microscope before? Have you ever looked at that? I want to show you something. There's a video I want to play here in just a second. It's the inner life of a cell. And these are videos that now, Harvard Medicine and doctors like Dr. Drew Berry and others are able now to take a microscope and go so deep inside of a cell. And this is about a 3-minute video. I want you to think about this because these processes and all these peptides and all these cells are happening right now inside your body. If I took a microscope and went deep enough, I could see through my hand. So I want you to take a second and just look at this slide. Watch this video of what's going on inside your body right now. And when those cells are moving, that's a young, healthy, vibrant body. When those cells start to slow down, that's the aging process. So take a look at this video of how amazing the human body is. Let's play that video on the inner life of a cell, please. How amazing. Our bodies are beautifully and wonderfully made. And that's why I don't care about your diabetes, your heart disease, your chronic pain and inflammation. We care about what's going on inside your cells. Like there's a whole universe happening inside your body. And if you understand how to tap into that, how to bio-tap into that, it can be an absolute game changer. You guys know some of our other differentiators. Dr. CJ talked about how thoughts, traumas, and toxins are the root cause of all evil. With our technologies, we're able to measure. We can measure, and in a minute you're going to hear from Dr. Patrick Porter about how your thoughts change your DNA and how your stress affects your gut. Like it's so easy to get healthy, but most of us have no idea how to do it because we don't know where we are. Dr. CJ talked about the traumas, the toxins, and all the other issues in the body. You guys know that this is a major differentiator for us. I teach this to doctors all across the globe, but there's a hierarchy of health to help yourself. You know, there's a 12-step process to the body. And think about this. If you think about it like a ladder, if I have a problem at step number 12, which is like musculoskeletal problems, neck pain, back pain, knee pain, joint pain, or inflammation, but if I have an issue in my DNA or my bacteria or my nervous system, which is step 1, 2, or 3, I can't fix step number 12 unless 1, 2, and 3 are resolved. How many of you have ever been to a physician or tried a solution that felt good and worked for a little while? It was a temporary solution, but then it came back. How many of you in here have ever experienced that? That's because it wasn't the root cause of the problem. So folks, we have some major differentiators, and all of this is going into our technology, and it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for you to understand how to navigate the app and how to do all the testing and understand this. But how many of you would agree that we're at a point now where the healthcare space and the wealth care space, it's so frustrating, it's so broken that you're willing to put in a little bit of effort and work up front to understand a new system and process that can literally innovate and change the world forever? How many of you would agree that that's a good thing? Same here.